My perception of drill sergeants informed mostly by movies like
Yeah.
Full Metal Jacket,
Yep.
and Company C, and Platoon, I think.
Yep.
Is that they're all raging psychopaths. So what is the reality versus perception, and how would you, what would be like the most charitable interpretation of the drill sergeant's job?
So that's a really good question. So Ermi, so Full Metal Jacket,
He's from around here.
yeah.
Same neighborhood that I grew up in.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice. No, so it's honestly, it's a decent representation of how it used to be. So obviously over time, things progress, things change, times change and whatnot. So for example, that movie obviously was from 20, 30 years ago. But that was during a time where the drill sergeants or in the Marines, drill instructors were allowed to put their hands on you. They could hit you. And so his screaming and yelling and whatnot, from obviously I didn't personally go through it, but from what I understand, it was decently accurate for them to be able to scream at you and punish you and call you out in front of all the other people and whatnot. And so, like, for example, when I came in, it was 2003. They were just getting to the point where they were trying to phase out the drill sergeants cursing at us. They didn't want the cursing to happen. And now, as a drill sergeant now, in 2020, you're not supposed to be cursing at them. There's a lot more rules in place that protect the trainees from getting hurt. So, for example, like when I was in, like they could have us doing push-ups for, what seemed like hours and hours and hours, probably maybe 5 or 10 minutes tops. That's not allowed anymore, for example, because they recognize that it was too much physical strain. Well, to take a step back, what the Army did a lot of research, and they found out that they were spending billions and billions of dollars a year on trainees that basically they get broke within a few weeks of reporting to basic training, and then A, they never serve again, B, they get medically discharged, which means C, that they're drawing VA disability for the rest of their lives, and the Army is having to pay for all of their medical treatments forever. And so the Army's like, well, we need to fix this, and they realized it was because of the environments that they were going through. It wasn't as conducive to people successfully graduating. And so some of the things were like, whenever trainees get in trouble, instead of just doing push-ups, there's a set, it's basically like a list of authorized exercise that we can make them do. And there's caps as far as how much we can make them do and whatnot. So for example, that's kind of how it is now versus when I was in, there was no limit on that. They were trying to get rid of cursing, but even probably 10 years prior to me, it was 15, 20 years maybe, it was when they were phasing out actually drill sergeants actually being able to physically put their hands on you. So, but anyway, so as far as accurate representation, to answer your question, as far as how it was back then, I think Full Metal Jacket does a really good job because it does show obviously the motivational techniques that the drill instructors were able to use, as well as kind of like the climates in the barracks and how other people truly get upset at you if you're the one constantly screwing up, and you're going to pay for it, with the sock party, with the, it's the socks and the bar soap and the socks and beating, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, so as far as, I can't think of a movie off the top of my head that accurately represents basic training now. Just honestly, it's not as interesting. It's not nearly as provocative or entertaining as something like Full Metal Jacket.
You miss not being able to use any of those? So
like, I'm not gonna, so they say we're not supposed to curse, and not so many words. It's basically profanity is, not supposed to be used, but of course it's going to happen anyways. And it can be used as a motivational tool, if you will. The main factor of it is they don't want you cursing, using profanity, specifically targeting a trainee. So like one trainee. So you can say, am I allowed to curse?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So like you can say like, I'm trying to think, like you're a piece of shit. Like you can't say you're a piece of shit. I can say you all are being a bunch of pieces of shit right now. So as long as it's broad and it's general, as opposed to attacking one single person, that's fine. So name calling and whatnot, you can call the whole body of people as a whole a name, but you can't specifically target, one person in particular. But as far as just like, anybody in life, especially anybody in the military, when you get mad and upset, curse words tend to fly, and that's very apparent. It does happen a lot, with drill sergeants still. So
are drill sergeants like a character? Are you putting on a character when you go out in front of the recruits, or?
Yeah, actually, because a lot of my, my neighbors, my friends and whatnot, and they all say it's the same common thing. Like, I just can't picture you as a drill sergeant. Like, you're so happy, you're so funny. Like, I can't just picture you just yelling and screaming at people. And so, like, well, ask my ex-wife first off. She'll tell you that I can yell and scream at the best of them. But no, it is kind of, you are literally and figuratively putting a hat on, because you have to be that force and that driving voice to help motivate them to become a soldier, when you don't obviously have to do that, in any other aspect of your life. So,
how long does it take you to get a character? Do you put on the hat and you're like Zorro? You're already in it, or?
Yeah, it takes 2 seconds, because so for example, we could be in the office and like just smoking a joke and just hanging out, just having fun, and we see a trainee walk by and do something dumb like that. Just all of a sudden, yeah, it's in a heartbeat. So,
can you give us a little scene? Just a quick example. You just snap into character.
Yeah, right. So like, you put me on the spot. So like, let's say you and I are hanging out in the office and we're just hanging out and telling jokes or whatever, and there's a trainee. So one of the big things is they have to have their battle buddies. They have to have someone with them at all times, and that's to protect them as well as to protect us. To protect them from, sounds dumb, but like getting lost or like getting into trouble on your own. Always having somebody there to verify your story. God forbid something happened.
So there's some kid walking out there. He doesn't have his battle buddy.
Exactly. So,
right, so you see him out there right now. What do you do?
So what the fuck are you doing? So that'd be the very first thing I would say. And then the second one, I'd be like, stop. And then I would scream, basically, so all the other trainees could be like, help, I need a battle buddy. Help, I need a battle buddy. So I'd get louder and louder and louder, to the point where, like, finally when because they can't just have one person go up, because that one person doesn't have a battle buddy coming up. They got to have 2 people come up and basically recover their battle buddy. All get punished. I can't say punished. They'll also receive corrective training, usually to the tune of whether it's push-ups or any sort of other exercise to kind of reinforce the rule that had been broken and whatnot. So, but it's really as simple as, like, we're just talking a normal voice now, and then just projecting your voice and screaming at somebody. And again, depending on the infraction, the level as far as how much you get into, whether it's I just sit here and just keep yelling at them, or whether it requires me to actually get up and get into their face and, and whatnot, just scream and yell and, make them cry and whatnot. So,
you make people cry?
Yes, I try. So, and I succeed decently often. So how do I say this? My goal at the beginning is not to make them cry. It's to correctly get the point across that I'm trying to make. But if there's just this blatant disrespect, or just that you can tell that I don't care attitude kind of thing, then I make it my personal mission to ream into them so much to where I see tears coming out of their face. And some of them break and some of them don't, which makes me even more mad, which makes me try even harder. And but yeah, that's part of it. I mean, everybody breaks at some point. So yeah, I generally, if they piss me off enough, absolutely, I'm going to try and make them cry.
For the record, I don't cry. I'm not sensitive.
Yeah, right.
Until I read the comments on this. I'm sure up to 30 people are going to watch this.
Right.
I'm sure now that I said that, I'm going to get some comments about my voice or my frame, or
your frame.
People are going to be just crappy production overall. People are going to be trying to make me cry. So I don't know, do your best. The movie tropes is kind of like one of my interests. So you did talk about what would get wrong. Are there any movies that get it right, or?
As far as being a drill sergeant?
Let's start with the drill sergeant part, then broaden it to war movies in general. What do they get right and wrong?
So as far as the drill sergeant side of things go, I think Full Metal Jacket, that, like I said, does a pretty decent job. Off the top of my head, I can't really think of many other war movies or army movies that kind of focus on the basic training side of things too much, just because that is such a short, small time frame in your career. I mean,
how long is it? For
9 weeks. So 9 weeks, and you're talking about someone like me who's been in for 17 years. So even most people who get out after their initial contract, I mean, that's still 4 or 6 years. I mean, that little 2.5 month stretch is not very long when you look at the entire big picture. So that's why, as the sample size, I think is pretty small for just basic training type things.